It's a new month, and that can only mean one thing, and that is that me and Sam are back together again for another discussion. Sam?
Hi.
Well, how are things over at, Here's What, All Things WWE?
Pretty good.
Well,
How are things with you?
slow, but, I mean, I really don't record too often, not that anybody's complaining, but, I don't know. I mean, I record, monthly, I record our videos more than I record, or just as much as I record on my own, which, probably isn't a good thing since we only record once a month.
Sometimes it's hard, life gets in the way.
Yeah. I mean, I just a little disinterested, I guess.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. You know, but keeping busy with other things, but that's maybe a video for another, a discussion for another video. There's, I'm sure, other, things we can talk about, like, recently I did a post on the site, about Daniel Bryan, because I keep hearing and seeing people complaining about D. Bryan's position in WWE. And the fact that he's teaming with Kane as opposed to main eventing with AJ.
We don't obviously know the specifics behind his injury, but I think that it's smart. I mean, he had to retire, so obviously whatever injuries he had were pretty severe, and I think it's smart to not throw him to the wolves right away. I'm sure he wants to wrestle every day, single matches, but I think that this is probably the best decision. Everybody's going to complain, but I'm enjoying it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to see, it's like John Cena. When John Cena leaves and then comes back and randomly gets title shots, as deserving as Daniel Bryan is, I'd rather see a build-up to it.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. But in doing the research for that, which was about 5 minutes of doing a Google search of Daniel Bryan's contract status, I found that he has actually yet to re-sign with the company. So,
very interesting.
That could also be a reason why Daniel is in the position that he's in, because wouldn't you agree that you wouldn't position somebody who could leave in a valued spot in the company?
Well, look at Brock Lesnar.
Well, that's only an indication of maybe WWE. Yeah? Okay. Probably later. Well, maybe that's an indication of maybe WWE should open the door to a interim Universal Champion like UFC does with when people get injured.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that's probably a discussion for another video, but I don't I guess this is the difference between wrestling fans, that you have the wrestling fans who understand why WWE has Daniel in the position that he's in, and others that don't understand it and look at it as, oh, but he's Daniel Bryan, he should be in the main event. It's that WWE doesn't like him, or whatever the point is. I can't necessarily put myself in the position of why somebody couldn't understand that Daniel is in the position that he's in.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody's been wanting Rusev to get pushed for so long, and now that he is, now you want Daniel Bryan to take his spot? They're never going to be happy.
Oh no, 100% they're never going to be happy. I mean, then again, I'd only be happy for Rusev if Rusev beats AJ, because to be fair, AJ doesn't need the belt anymore. AJ can go on the run. AJ could go on the chase for a little while. Even if he wins the title back by Survivor Series, that would be fine, and goes into another Road to WrestleMania as champion. That would be fine, but he needs to drop the title eventually. You know, and that's also the difference between, you know, WWE and New Japan, that New Japan can keep you interested in Okada's run to where after 700 days you're finally ready for him to drop the title. Or maybe 600 plus days you're ready for him to drop the title, and not, I believe AJ's at like 230 something or 240 something. You know, that's the difference, that New Japan can keep you interested for a lot longer than WWE can. I mean, don't get me wrong, AJ's run has been one of the longest runs in quite a while, I feel like. But, you know, does he really need the title to face Daniel Bryan or Samoa Joe, or could he not be champion and face them?
I mean, I wouldn't, you know, either way, I wouldn't mind.
Well, also the thing you could think, how much of it could be that Daniel needs to be in the position that he's in because of the slight possibility he may not come back, and the other possibility that Kane is still here, and they want to give him, they don't know what his status is as far as the mayoral run, and if they just want to give him one more run, because you know how WWE likes filling out people's, you know, trophy cases as far as, you know, championships and stuff like that, and just giving Kane one more, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see, because they're saying that if Kane and Daniel win the SmackDown Tag Team titles, he'd be the first to hold, like, all of the tag titles WWE's ever had, and that's probably what they're doing, and they'll stay together for a bit, and then Kane will go on to do whatever he does, and that would be the end of that.
Well, yeah, because, you know, you can't expect, number one, with Kane's recent runs, he goes away for a bit. But I think that his last run, and you could agree or disagree with this, that his last run proved that he can't be a singles wrestler anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, the matches weren't terrible, but it's just that people aren't interested in him being a singles act anymore.
I think people like Kane and Goldust hang up their boots. WWE likes to, I mean, no disrespect to either one of them, they can still obviously go at it, but the nostalgia factor has worn off so much. Like, how many times have you seen Kane return? Like, I just, you know, I don't care anymore. I mean, maybe that's just me personally, but...
Well, no, I mean, I think Mark Henry had the right idea of calling it a career. You know, and I'm sure Big Show's at that point, too.
I mean, I could argue that one can argue that, you know, their careers probably went on longer than it needed to.
Oh, no, you're not. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I think that the main thing with WWE is that they could have used both of them. I mean, don't get me wrong, the Big Show has been used tremendously in the last year as a established veteran to put over guys like Braun Strowman, but Big Show still had that credibility. I feel like Kane lost it somewhere along the line as a singles act.
No, you're right.
Well, now, before people get lost on the idea of why we're talking about Kane and how we got off Daniel Bryan so fast, the point is that it might not just be that WWE is worried about Daniel's health status. It might not just be that his contract, it's his contract. It's they wanted Team Hell No back together one more time before Kane hung it up. Because I'm not up to date on the Tennessee mayoral race. I'm not up to date on all that stuff. But I know Kane. I'm pretty sure Kane won the.
I think he won the primary. Yeah.
Yeah. So he'll be running. I'm assuming next year for the mayoral race, or this November, or whenever the heck the Tennessee mayoral race goes through. But if he wins, the mayor of whatever town in Tennessee he's from, he's not going to be a full-time wrestler anymore. He's not even going to be a part-time wrestler anymore. He's going to be the mayor of a town in Tennessee.
Whatsoever, yeah.
I mean, if it happens this year, then this likely could be his last run with the company.
That might be what they're getting at.
You know, and that would sort of explain his run earlier this year with Brock, that they wanted to give him one more, you know, title win, or, I mean, not title win, like, major, yeah. But, like, and that's, like, and this would, it's like you said, they want to give, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Bludgeon Brothers just to give Kane that full circle, sort of like they did with the Big Show a few years ago when they had him on the Intercontinental title. Even though they probably shouldn't have had Big Show beat Cody Rhodes a few years ago when they did just to have him round out and win every possible title he could with the company. You know,
yep. Probably where it's going.
Exactly. And that's, like, basically, you know, let's say Kane does disappear again, in October. Let's say the run ends in October. They hold the belts for a couple months, and the run ends with, I don't know, the Usos beating them and becoming champions again. I hope they don't, just because of the fact that, you know, I don't want the Usos to be champions so soon again, because they, you know, I feel like they need to be out of the title picture until maybe WrestleMania next year, or, you know, Fastlane, or whatever pay-per-view is around then. But I think it's more than likely Daniel becomes a single superstar again, probably by Survivor Series. He's not going to feud with Kane. They're not going to tease a heel turn, because nobody will care. I think WWE knows fan interest in Kane is very low. They'll be sad to see him leave. They'll be happy, you know, they'll be, you know, cheering for him when he retires and saying thank you and all that stuff. But as far as him being a singles act and feuding with Daniel, or giving us the feud that we never got 4 years ago with Daniel and Kane, nobody wants to see it now.
Nope.
I think Daniel will be a singles wrestler not only by the end of the year, but he'll be one of the top stars going into the road to WrestleMania.
I agree with that.
Now, do you think he signs back, or do you think he leaves for Ring of Honor in New Japan?
I don't know. I feel like that all depends on how much. I mean, he obviously just wants to wrestle, and if he doesn't think that that's going to work in WWE, I think I could see him leaving.
I agree, but I mean, I said this in the article that I don't think there's a legitimate reason at this point for Daniel to leave.
No, I mean, he just, February, the end of February, or when did he?
Yeah, I think it was the end of February, early March,
yeah,
something like that.
It hasn't been that long.
Exactly. You know, and don't get me wrong, I would love to see Daniel in the ring with Kenny Omega and Okada and Jay Lethal and all those guys in Ring of Honor and New Japan, but nobody can sit here and say that they wouldn't like to see Bryan and Joe and Bryan and Styles and Bryan and Nakamura, and that's just on SmackDown.
No, you're right. I feel like there's more opportunities for him. I mean, and that, like you said, that's just SmackDown. There's Bryan and Balor, Bryan and Rollins.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
there's a lot of matches we haven't seen that I would like to think he'd be interested in having.
Because I do know that Bryan and Rollins, I'm pretty sure either fought or feuded or when...
I think they did with the Shield, the initial Shield run.
But there is no doubt that Seth Rollins is 100 times better now than he was when he first got here with the Shield. He's a different wrestler now than he was with the Shield.
Oh yeah.
And it would be a better match if that's hard to believe, but it would also be bringing them full circle from Ring of Honor to the Shield to now if they're able to fight each other. But that's the thing, and it's also the idea that if something ever did, God forbid, happen, I don't think there would be a better place for him than WWE to be. You know, Dr. Chris Amon aside, well, actually, that doctor aside, because, he apparently likes to file lawsuits against people.
I was going to say, don't talk about him, don't even mention his name, because you don't want to get sued.
Yeah. Either way, it doesn't speak to the, incompetence of the WWE doctor. You know, you look to Jerry Lawler. Anywhere else, King would be dead.
No, I would never say you're lucky to have a heart attack, but he was lucky it happened when it did, where it did.
He would be dead if it happened at an independent show.
Yeah.
You know, God bless him for still competing, but he's lucky that he works for WWE. And Daniel, I think part of what happened with Punk was he was just dissatisfied with the company and was looking for any, a pigeonhole to blame. A person to blame or whatever. He had it, he wanted an out. He got an out. It exasperated the situation. I know. Oh, you don't want to talk about Punk. The last thing that CM Punk is doing right now is watching a wrestling video.
No, I think he moved on completely from that.
But you could just tell, with the Art of Wrestling podcast, he was dissatisfied with the business. I don't think Daniel Bryan will ever get dissatisfied or disinterested with wrestling.
No, me neither.
Don't... No problem.
Getting over sinus infection.
Oh, that sucks. Well, actually, it's good that you're getting over it, but it sucks that you had it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, don't get me wrong. If Daniel Bryan had the opportunity to appear at All In, that would be, amazing, but there's a little thing called the 90-day no-compete clause that I'm pretty sure would still be in place, especially with WWE knowing about All In on September 1st. They wouldn't let Daniel appear at All In. There is no doubt in my mind that with his contract expiring on September 1st, there is no doubt in my mind that would prevent him every turn possible to appear at that event.
Yeah, there's no way. Well, actually, I've heard, I've only seen it one place, but there are rumors that WWE wants Cody back and Kenny Omega, but I highly doubt that that's happening.
Well, yeah, it's like, don't get me, I did get some of the stuff that I was going to talk about with you from a What Culture Wrestling video, but, it's like they said, I think they had a video, like 7 wrestlers that should never sign with WWE. Kenny Omega makes a ridiculous amount of money now with New Japan. He's world champion with New Japan. He has creative freedom with New Japan.
I feel like everybody assumes that because WWE is so huge, that's ultimately where everybody wants to go. Not everybody wants to work for them.
Yeah.
And you're right. And honestly, if Kenny Omega, if he came to WWE, he'd probably get slaughtered and would not be. I mean, with Vince, I think if Triple H was in power, we would be talking a completely different story, but Vince is still in power, and I don't see him signing anytime soon. But I think that once Triple H and Stephanie have power, things are going to change tremendously, and I think we might see those people we never thought we would see. I mean, I don't think anybody thought Adam Cole would ever sign with WWE.
You know, and the scary part is, I only know this because, you know, I did an article on Adam Cole, because it's his birthday today, that he's only 29 years old.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't realize he was that young.
He's only 29 years old. That is crazy. That he's done as much as he's done in that long. And to your point, I could definitely see Kenny Omega signing with WWE. I don't think we will ever see Cody Rhodes re-sign with WWE because of how much money he's making outside of WWE, how much money he's made outside of WWE, and the fact that he's one of the integral members of the Bullet Club, and basically, hot topic, he gets all the cut from the Hot Topic deal over him and the Young Bucks and, you know, Kenny Omega and, you know, the other being the Elite and Bullet Club members get the cut from that deal. I mean, just look at the Young Bucks had those little dolls. I saw one of the Young Bucks posted on their Twitter that they had the little dolls made of them. The
Funko Pops.
Yeah, whatever those things are. Yeah. But it's they get everything from that deal. The WWE, like New Japan, gets nothing because New Japan treats especially Gaijin as independent contractors. But New Japan has always been great with paydays. All Japan too. Japan has always been insanely profitable because Japanese fans love wrestling. You know, and, you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, you know, the Daniel Bryan get would be a huge get for New Japan and instantly help their expansion to the States. But would that be good for Daniel? Or would it be better for him to stay put in WWE? You know, we don't know what would be good for Daniel and what wouldn't be good for Daniel because we're not Daniel. But we're speaking to the idea of, you know, this is not a shot at New Japan or anything, but WWE has a proven track record of having the medical professionals at ringside, like we said with Jerry Lawler, but it's also the fact that, it's like you said, Daniel just came back in the spring from retirement. From a 4-year retirement? Or a 3-year retirement? You know, give it time. You know, that's the thing that I dislike about wrestling fans today. They are insanely impatient.
Yep.
Insanely impatient. That if you want something to go slow build, they'll get impatient and say, no, we want it now. Why is it happening like this? No. I mean, the way Vince McMahon used to book, and I don't understand why he doesn't book like this anymore. I mean, because he's obviously not obsessive about the ratings anymore, so he doesn't go week to week ratings-wise. I mean, just look at Raw. That he would go WrestleMania to WrestleMania and then fill in between. And I know this because J.J. Dillon said that. I know this because Bruce Pritchard said that. A number of people who used to work for the company said Vince would used to go WrestleMania to WrestleMania. At one WrestleMania, he would be thinking about the next one. And then they would fill in backwards. Which is insanely difficult, filling in a year of television, but that's how long term he would go, and he would inform, Seth Rollins 6 months in advance that he would win he's going to win the Universal title at Survivor Series. And they were only at, Backlash. They don't do that now. They inform the people the day of. Or 2 days before that they're winning the title. Because that's how far in advance that they plan. And that's the thing. You wonder if they actually do have a long-term plan for Daniel Bryan, or if they're booking day by day.
Probably at this point.
But it's also the question of, you go back to the 90s, Russo was or you even go back to the days of Freddie Prinze Jr. on the creative team. You had the balancing of Freddie Prinze Jr. and Bruce Pritchard. And Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes was, I'm not sure. I'm actually not sure if Michael Hayes was ever on the creative team, or if he was just or if he's always just been an agent. But the point is, you had the real writer in Freddie Prinze Jr. and the wrestling guy with Bruce Pritchard. Now, do you really have that anymore, or is it just down in NXT where you have the wrestling guy with Triple H and the other wrestling guys? I mean, yeah, you have Ryan Ward on SmackDown, but, it feels like WWE went away. You have to find a reason to figure out why they don't do the long-term planning anymore. And it could be that the long-term planning went away when the weekly writers came in. The actual Hollywood writers came in that don't know wrestling, but it's like, how could they not know a story arc? How could they not be able to put together a story arc if they're a Hollywood writer? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I went to school for broadcasting, but my undergrad was media studies, and I wanted to initially write for WWE, and technically one of the requirements is you're supposed to know the storylines. I had a friend who applied, but he's like, you had to know all this stuff, and he's like, I don't follow it. So you would think, it's funny that you said that, you don't need to be a passionate fan, but you need to know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just odd that, I didn't think of it that way.
I mean, I do think that, like you have grown so accustomed to say, that once Triple H takes over, things will be different. Because if you look who Triple H learned from, would you say that Triple H learned more from Dusty or Vince?
Oh, Dusty.
Exactly. Dusty is, Triple H is the old school Southern booker. And I say Southern booker because wrestling in the North, and this is a North versus South thing. If you don't believe me, just ask Jim Cornette. Wrestling in the North has always, always, always been entertainment. All the way back to Bruno Sammartino, because Bruno was never a good wrestler. He was a good entertainer. You look down south, Dusty, Eddie Graham, Cornette, the great bookers from down there, they were always wrestling promotions. And even Vern Gagne was a wrestling promotion, even though he, wasn't the smartest guy. Sorry, Greg. But it was always a southern thing, not a northern thing. Would you agree that the South has always been more of a wrestling promotion, and then the North was always more entertainment?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, look at the champions. You had guys like Ric Flair in the South, but you had Hulk Hogan with WWE. Hulk Hogan ain't a great wrestler. You know.
It's an understatement.
But that's why things will be different when Hunter takes over, because he will focus on the wrestling, because just look at NXT. You know, and you wonder if when when the XFL kicks off, no pun intended, that if Vince is going to pull himself away from WWE, will that be when Triple H starts getting more power on the main roster? Because just look at what he's been able to do with 205 Live in the short period of time that he's taken over. You know, you have actually people praising 205 Live, saying the consistency of the amazing main events that they do, that you never heard that before. You never heard people praising 205 Live.
No, people were complaining about it.
People were complaining that it was a show. People were saying that it should just get discontinued. But definitively, if there was an award for most improved TV product, definitely it should go to 205 Live. If only if it was on TV. Don't get me wrong, it annoyed the hell out of me anytime I heard Michael Cole say, the most entertaining action on TV, or the most exciting hour on television. I would always say, Michael, it's not on TV. It's a stupid catchphrase for a show when it's on the WWE network. I mean, yes, it's a stupid technicality, but it's not on TV. It should be, because, the WWE would be better served putting that on TV since some of the... you can't tell me that they couldn't have an hour of 205 Live take up an hour of Raw and have 2 hours of the regular Raw. You don't really need 3 hours of Raw, but...
You don't? It's going so well, though.
I sense a wee bit of sarcasm.
Just a little bit.
Almost like if you were to say that Baron Corbin should be Universal Champion.
Be better than Brosner.
Wow. You actually praised Baron Corbin?
No, did I?
Are you delusional? Is that because of the sinus infection? It must be the medication. It's got to be the medication.
Yeah.
It's got to be the medication. It's making you delusional. But I love how we keep segueing away from Daniel and finding a way back to him. Excuse me. But ultimately, do you think that Daniel should stay with WWE?
Yes.
Who would you like to see him face at WrestleMania next year?
Oh, The Miz. I think we all want to see that.
I agree. I completely agree. I would have liked to have seen The Miz be the one that's in the position of Rusev and have Miz be the one that wins the title, but maybe it's too early for that. Maybe closer to, say, Survivor Series, Miz can win the title. Instead of now. because, you know, you don't, I mean, even though you have Miz and AJ feud for a little bit, and then you get Daniel Bryan in there, I mean, because in reality, you also could just have Daniel win the Royal Rumble, and then start feuding with Miz then, because you don't really, I mean, even though, you know, you could have, you know, the long, drawn-out feud between them, you don't really need it. You could have, you know, you could have a Road to WrestleMania build-up of Miz, Daniel, and have that be enough time to build them up, because that's how long this feud has been going on. I mean, it's been building for 8 years. It's been building since Daniel debuted.
Wow, yeah.
Well, on and off for 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said, that there's nobody else that I'd rather see Daniel fight at WrestleMania than The Miz. Even if, hypothetically speaking, you know, I don't think it will happen, but even if Daniel was to retire the day after WrestleMania, again, to step away from the ring forever, as long as he fought The Miz on the biggest stage, I'd be okay with that. As long as he came back and fought The Miz and gave us the match that we've been waiting for, especially since Miz's rant on him on Talking Smack, that it, you know, as long as it led to a match, you know, at least it led to a match. You know?
I think that that's pretty much a guarantee that that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. I wasn't, there is no way I was expecting to talk about this for as long as we've talked about it, but I guess we get lost in what we're talking about sometimes. But I noticed another video on, you know, not to shout out Road Culture Wrestling again, because they don't really need a shout out, but they have a video of why WWE needs another pipe bomb. And I do believe it's been 7 years since Punk's pipe bomb.
2011, yeah, I think so.
I mean, I've never seen an angle start so hot and end so flat. Or flop so poorly. Like
the CM Punk?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah, WWE is great at, like, building momentum and then turning them all.
I mean, I'll say this one thing and I'll shout out another thing that doesn't really need a shout out, but Kayfabe Commentaries does the guest booker series, and around that time, I forget what he was doing, but Gabe Sapolsky said he would have liked to book that the Summer of Punk. I really wish that Sean Oliver would have put together a Gabe Sapolsky Summer of Punk guest booker. Really would have wished he'd done that. Because if anybody knows how to book, I mean, don't get me wrong, Gabe Sapolsky had problems recently with, you know, whatever, you know, his attitude or whatever it was. It was a while ago. But he, you know, he knows, he doesn't have the WWE mentality, I guess. You know, he knows how to book. You know, he learned from Paul. Of course he knows how to book. But, you know, yeah, you know, WWE has a tendency of screwing things up when it's not their guy.
Yep.
But with that being said, do you think they need another pipe bomb?
No. Don't think it's really necessary.
Do you think it would dilute it if they did it?
know. I feel like it depends on who it was. That did it?
Yeah, hypothetically, if you had to pick somebody to give the pipe bomb, to give a shoot promo, I know who I'd pick. Who would you pick?
You know, I gotta say Kevin Owens.
Interesting.
I would believe it coming from him.
Yeah. No. So if this Monday he just goes up the stage and sits down on the stage Indian style and starts shooting.
I think that would be. I would watch.
Well, I would too. I was gonna say The Miz, but then again, he doesn't have to shoot for me to watch.
I mean, he pretty much. I feel like that's all of his almost.
I'm thinking about it. He does. You could tell he's not written for anymore.
No, I think that probably stopped a long time ago.
Yeah.
He doesn't need a script.
I mean, I would have to agree with you on that, but I would also maybe throw Sami Zayn in there just to see him, or maybe
I like that too.
Or maybe pulling an AJ and having one of the women do it.
Now, which woman would do? You know, I'd like Becky Lynch.
I'd say Bayley or Sasha.
I can't see Bayley. I can see Sasha. I can't see Bayley. Bayley is, she's a fantastic wrestler, but I think her mic skills are like, sad.
Yeah. I mean, but it's the, I feel like if they did it, it would dilute it, because unless you had somebody like a Kevin Owens who maybe was on par with Punk as far as mic skills, or Miz do it, it wouldn't have the same effect as Punk.
No, you're right. Yeah, exactly.
And, no, you don't have to have it where, oh, my contract's expiring and I'm going to leave with the WWE title. You don't have to have it like that. You could have it where the guy just says, pardon my French, but fuck it, I quit.
Yeah.
I'm done with the company. Goodbye. You could say, oh, Dolph Ziggler should do it. Dolph Ziggler should have did it 7 months ago when he actually did walk away with the U.S. title, walk out as U.S. champion, only to come back a month later. Yes, he says he wanted to go off TV, but then why did he not insist and use his contract status, which supposedly he still hasn't resigned or whatever, but why not use your contract status as a bargaining chip to say, no, I'm staying off TV or I'm not resigning?
Yeah. Perfect timing.
Because you come back and stay, 2 minutes of the Rumble? Which is the other reason why I think that having them do a shoot promo like that, only to have the guy walk out or whatever, it would be too soon. Don't get me wrong. They can have the guy do a shoot promo. He doesn't have to leave. But it's just the tough, how do you not have them leave when they do it, if they did a shoot like that? You know what I mean? How do you keep them on TV every week after cutting that type of promo?
Yep, I don't know.
Yes, fine. That's why we're not bookers, and we don't sit there every week booking weekly television. Does it take practice? Yeah. But you also have to sit there and know how to maintain the people's egos and stuff like that. And, if it was me, half the people on the roster, you just sit there and say, sink or swim. You want to talk for yourself, talk for yourself. We'll give you bullet points. We'll tell you we'll tell you what we want you to discuss. But other than that, you talk for yourself. Because the one reason why a pipe bomb would work is because it would make people stick out. And that's one of the reasons why I pointed out to the women's division, is because it would make somebody in the women's division stick out. Because I feel like one of the reasons why I wouldn't want Sasha to turn heel is because you have the Riot Squad and you have Alexa Bliss as heels on Raw. You have Alexa Bliss, who has her gimmick. And you have the Riot Squad, who have their gimmick. I feel like as a heel on Raw in particular, you need a gimmick in the women's division. As a babyface, you're just a cookie-cutter babyface. So unless you let Sasha go back full boss like she was in NXT, you're not gonna get her. She should not be a heel. Even if people say, "Oh, but turn Bayley." Turn Bayley. Why not? Well, what the heck has she done? What the heck has she done on the main roster to be half the person she was in NXT? Turn Bayley. Who cares? Oh, people can't boo her. You haven't given people many reasons to cheer her, so why not get people to boo her? I mean, you had her attack Sasha Banks and sent her to see a shrink or counseling. I mean, how many cars does Braun Strowman have to tip over to actually get sent to counseling? I mean, it would be kind of funny to see Braun Strowman in counseling, because he'd probably throw the counselor through a wall or something. Which is a reason why WWE should do it, because it would be funny to see what Braun Strowman would do. But, like, everybody is cookie cutter and the same. Nobody sticks out. Not just in the women's division, in WWE in general. Nobody sticks out.
No, you're 100% right.
That's why a pipe bomb would work, because it would help somebody stick out. But then you go to the long-term planning, you go to the long-term booking, and you ask, how do they keep the person hot? You know, don't get me wrong. I think Triple H could do it 100%, because just look at how he's booked Gargano and Ciampa. Gargano has been the hottest wrestler in WWE in wrestling this year, in my opinion. And I think for once, a WWE superstar will actually be in the running to win Wrestler of the Year. For once, somebody in WWE will have the opportunity to win Wrestler of the Year.
I agree.
PWI Wrestler of the Year, because there's no way in hell somebody from America is going to win from America is going to win Wrestling Observer Wrestler of the Year. Because there's no way in hell somebody from America could win a Meltzer Award. But I don't remember the last time somebody from WWE actually ever had the opportunity to win Wrestler of the Year. Other than maybe Chris Jericho in 2008. You know, Feud of the Year? Fine. Match of the Year? Fine. But Wrestler of the Year? Nobody can tell me that Johnny Gargano should not be up in the running for the Wrestler of the Year. With Okada and Omega. Right there with him. Because legitimately, there is no way that Okada and Omega could wrestle a 7-star match. Legitimately, it's just Meltzer being Meltzer and showing his bias towards Japanese wrestling as opposed to American wrestling. I feel like Bruce Pritchard with the amount that I'm running down Dave Meltzer. But it's crazy to think that how good of a year Johnny Gargano has had, and he's in developmental.
Yep. Oh.
You know, Ed, Velveteen Dream, Tommaso Ciampa, Ricochet, Adam Cole, Roddy Strong, Pete Dunne, all those guys to the list. Now, I don't think Pete Dunne will ever make it to the main roster again, unless, you know, it's a UK show, but that's because I don't think Pete will leave his obligations in his home country, and I don't blame him for that. I 100% would not leave the UK right now. The UK is by far the hottest market for wrestling, which is also the reason why NXT UK. Now, speaking of NXT UK, since we're together, what are your thoughts on them expanding the NXT brand?
I think it's awesome. I actually just talked about it recently in one of my videos. I think it's going to give a lot more people the opportunity they might not have ever had. You know, obviously, being from that area and working overseas could be difficult with visa issues, and I think that them being able to wrestle on their home turf is pretty amazing. Like, you know, you've heard it time and time again with wrestlers getting, you know, stuck with visa issues, so...
Mm-hmm. I mean, just look at the Authors of Pain.
Sorry?
Just look at the Authors of Pain.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's giving people opportunities that probably otherwise wouldn't be able to have the opportunity.
Yeah, and they could technically say they are performing under the WWE banner.
And they are.
You know, and I completely agree with everything you said. It's giving people an opportunity that they may not have gotten in the otherwise. Now, I don't know this for sure, but I do assume that with the advent of the UK title, that means that the UK Championship will be exclusive to the UK brand.
Yeah, I would imagine so.
But, and of course the North American title for the North American brand. Now, do you think that this sort of gives more credence to them creating the North American title, knowing that they were going to make the UK title exclusive to the UK brand?
Yeah, because now it, you know, it makes sense why they would introduce another title. A big card title, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It makes a lot more sense.
Well, actually, now we've flipped the coin. What about in NXT? Do you think a pipe bomb would work in NXT, or do you think that they're not scripted enough down in NXT to even have a pipe bomb?
I don't think they need it in NXT. I don't think it's necessary.
I agree. I don't even think that they have enough of a script to get a pipe bomb, because I think, for the most part, I don't think Triple H scripts the guys, because what would be the point of scripting people in developmental if they're supposed to be there to learn?
Yeah.
Especially with guys like Roddy and Adam Cole and, you know, guys like that down there who are already established names. Are you really going to are you really going to expect them to actually learn from a script, or take from a script? And plus, with some of the shit that Tommaso Ciampa says, can you really think he was taking that from a script?
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that I go to Twitter and I see Tommaso say, the only way that Aleister Black is going to main event a takeover is if he fights Tommaso Ciampa. Which is like an embodiment of the type of guy Ciampa has been since his heel turn. Well, I guess the best way to wrap up is with Money in the Bank going the way it did, and Braun Strowman winning Money in the Bank and all that stuff. Does your excitement level for has your excitement level for Extreme Rules gotten any higher after after the events of Money in the Bank, or are you just looking forward to SummerSlam?
Honestly, I've been barely paying attention to wrestling lately because it's just been the same thing over and over again. So hopefully SummerSlam can kind of be like a reset.
Oh, so you've been one of those that road to WrestleMania. Okay, yeah, I'm strapped in. WrestleMania's over. Okay, I'll see you next year.
It's just gotten.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Braun and Roman Reigns opens the show every week, and he says the same thing over and over again.
I completely agree. I mean, that's why I'm not complaining that I work at nighttime, because, I mean, this week in particular, I worked till 10 o'clock, and I missed most of Raw, and I wasn't really complaining.
Nope, I work. I have to be in work at 5 a.m., and I've been going to sleep during wrestling and not missing much.
Don't get me wrong, somebody could point out, oh, you're a writer, you work for a wrestling write for a wrestling website. I do, but that doesn't mean I have to watch the shows.
No, I know what's going on. I follow what's going on. I still keep up with it.
I barely follow what's going on because it makes me puzzled. It makes me think, okay, well, why the hell are they doing that?
I used to, it's 8 o'clock, gotta come home to watch wrestling, and now I'm like, I don't,
Yeah, I don't care.
I'm not, I don't care.
I kind of feel like bad because if I actually knew what day Impact was on, I may actually watch Impact. But I don't know what day it's on. And if I actually thought about, sitting down and watching NXT, I'd watch NXT, but I don't really think of, I don't really give NXT a second thought, and I obviously don't care enough. And this is not a slot at Impact. This is not a slot at TNA. This is not a slot at them. They've done a wonderful job recently of creating interest in the show enough for me to actually want to watch it, but it's just the idea of sitting down for 2 hours and watching it. It's just the fact that I mean, part of it is I can't really do it because of work, but it's also the fact that I don't really want to, even though it's on demand, and, you could, Pop does post the shows on demand, but it's a week behind. So it's like, okay, but it's just, I mean, I guess in a way it's like, it's weird for me to sit down and watch wrestling for that amount of time that not WWE. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, I could do it, but it's weird watching it and knowing it's not WWE. And it also might just be that even though Josh Matthews is 100 times better now with Don Callis than he was ever, there's a reason why 2010 is one of the worst years in WWE history. It's not just because of the booking, it's because Josh Matthews was one of the lead announcers. But I mean, don't get me wrong, he's not terrible, it's just that he's boring as hell. Mike Adamle was 100 times worse, but, and WWE has had a lot worse announcers than Josh Matthews, but Josh Matthews is not one of the best. See Mike today for TNA's best announcer.
Yeah.
But, point is that it's just weird for me to sit down and watch wrestling when it's not WWE because it's always been WWE. Always. Like, from, the streak of going home, like you said, always going home and making sure you were home to watch wrestling has always been to watch WWE. And I mean, there was a 5-year period where I missed one episode of Raw. And that was like, I think Christmas 2005 or something like that. And then the streak slowly died, and, it became like 2 episodes in 5 years, and then, it's like I said, there came a point when they stopped making it where it was must-see television. And it's not, you have to swerve people, or it has to be Crash TV. No, it has to be interesting storylines where you can tell that they're going somewhere. Where it's not predictable, where you don't see Roman Reigns start up the show every week. The one thing that you liked about Nitro was they didn't start it off with an interview every week. They started it off with an interview or a match. If they started off with a match, it was because they did highlights from the week before to start the show. Or, at the height, the NWO arrival. I mean, that didn't necessarily mean that the NWO were going to come out every week and start the show every week, because Eric Bischoff knew, why have him start the show every single week? Don't get me wrong, Eric Bischoff is not a better booker than Vince McMahon. It's just that it maybe feels like Vince is not as involved as he was during the Attitude Era, or even during the Ruthless Aggression Era, or at the start of the PG Era. It feels like he's less involved now. And he's not as much of a micromanager. He doesn't go, or maybe he's just too much of a micromanager. But it doesn't feel the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It feels like he, like Vince Russo used to say, that he would write the show, take it to Vince, and Vince would always find one little thing to change. It doesn't feel like Vince is that way anymore. It doesn't feel like somebody's writing a picture-perfect show and Vince is just a detail person.
He's hardcore, way less involved than he used to be.
I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. It might be his age that he's getting to the point where he needs to step away, or maybe he's getting to the age where he needs to do something else.
Yeah.
But, no offense to Stephanie, but I never saw her as the creative type. Or the wrestling-minded person, because, her promos always consist of her running somebody down. If she was a wrestling type of person, she wouldn't have that type of promo, because she would know there would be no payoff. And there could be no payoff because she's a woman. No, unless she was saying it to another woman, but she says it to men, and men can't hit her. A man can't hit her. What say you?
I'm sorry. What?
Stephanie is more the business type and not the creative type.
Oh, yeah. I think she's always been that way.
Yet she's been head of creative for 10 years.
Yeah.
Or probably even longer than that. Yeah, I think it's been at least 16 or 17 years. Or maybe I don't even know if she's head of creative anymore, but yeah, I completely agree. And I think that once Vince takes his ball and goes to the XFL, once again, no pun intended, I don't think that the company will spiral out of control with him out of the picture. I think that Stephanie should take the business lead and Hunter should take the wrestling lead.
Oh, definitely.
Now, are these football references getting lost on you, or are you just shaking your head at my bad dad jokes?
No. It's just going over my head, I guess. It's been a long.
Say it again?
I said it's been a long week. I think they're just all going over my head.
You got to be delusional. I'm serving up these golden dad jokes, and they're not even. I don't even think there's such thing as a golden dad joke. With all that being said, let us know down in the comment section below what you think of anything we discussed in this video. Because we always want to hear from you guys. Feel free to go check out Sam's channel. Here's what all things WWE. She posts a lot more than me. So go check her out and give her a subscribe. I think that's what they still do on YouTube. But also feel free to subscribe here, even though I'm running down my activity. I will probably be trying to I'll be posting more. In reality, I'm just trying to build up the archived footage so I can just make the things public as opposed to uploading them right to YouTube right away. With that being said, let me know down in the comment section below. Leave a like, feel free to subscribe, and don't forget to ding on that notification bell to always know when a new video is up on the channel. And before we go, I just want to thank Sam once again for joining me for another discussion.
Thank you for having me again.